Either Brian Koberger is a criminal mastermind, or he's the dumbest criminal ever. But he can't be both. Hey everyone, it's Lucky from Unfiltered Lucky. And today I want to talk about Brian Koberger. And if Brian Koberger is the sole suspect in the Idaho 4 crimes, why did he make so many mistakes? Brian Koberger is working on his PhD in criminology. He has a master's degree in criminal science, and he has a bachelor's degree in psychology. So, Brian Koberger is well educated about crime and about the people who commit these crimes. He's been described as almost being obsessed over studying crimes and studying the psychology and thought process of the people who commit these crimes. So why did he make so many basic mistakes if he committed these crimes? Now, investigators believe that Brian Koberger possibly purchased this K-bar weapon on his Amazon account. What? So they believe that he possibly purchased the murder weapon on his Amazon account. Not only do they believe that he possibly purchased it on Amazon, they also believe that he possibly paid for this K-bar through his Venmo. I mean, does this sound like somebody who is educated about crime? No, this sounds like two of the dumbest mistakes that Brian Koberger could have made. Both of these accounts would lead directly right back to Brian Koberger. It seems ridiculous. Now, they're also looking into his emails because they believe that he might have emailed other people or had correspondence with people with regards to these crimes. But why? Why would you use your email to communicate about a crime? You don't use your email. You go pick up a burner phone. You don't use your email. Your email is the worst way to go about communicating about crimes. I mean, they can go back into your email back to the very beginning. You don't use your email. You use a burner phone. That just doesn't make sense to me. They're also looking into, these emails, believing that he possibly was emailing about this crime, which Brian Koberger would know that would lead directly back to him. So before he even gets to the house, he's already made 3 crucial mistakes that could easily tie him to these crimes. Now, it doesn't take a person with a master's degree in criminal psychology or criminal justice to know that you don't do these things, to know that all of these are going to come right back to you. It doesn't make sense. Now, on top of that, on the morning of the crimes, he allegedly drives his own personal vehicle that is registered in his name to him directly to the crime scene. Not only does he drive to the crime scene, but he allegedly drives around the crime scene. So he doesn't just drive to the crime scene, he drives around this neighborhood. They say 5 times. So he doesn't drive his own personal car. He doesn't just drive his own personal car to the crime scene. He parades it around the neighborhood 5 times so that every security camera in this neighborhood can see this car. That's mind-blowing to me. You don't drive your own personal vehicle to a crime scene. You steal a car. I mean, if you're already headed to a house to take multiple lives, you're not worried about charges of stealing a car. You wouldn't drive your own vehicle to the crime scene. It just doesn't make sense to me that he would drive his own, with all of his knowledge and education about crime, all of his studies with regards to studying criminals, and then this guy just drives his own car, his personal vehicle, over to the crime scene? That's dumb. That's not something you just overlook. That's something that someone would do who's not thinking or not planning at all. Bryan Kohberger is not described as somebody who is flying by the seat of his pants. He's described as being very well... He pays close attention to details. He's described as thinking before he speaks. But so far he's purchased the weapon on Amazon on his own account, paid for it on Venmo on his own account, talked about it on emails, and now he's driving his own car to the crime scene and making sure that he drives around the neighborhood multiple times. That just doesn't add up to me. That just doesn't make sense. So then Bryan Kohberger gets into this house and goes straight to the top level. So he takes the hard way. He goes straight to the top level rather than staying on the ground floor in order to contain anybody from leaving the house. He would know this. He would know this. Then he drops the sheath to the weapon on the bed next to the victims on the top level. He just drops his knife sheath. Why is he carrying this knife sheath around? That doesn't make sense. So if Bryan Kohberger, let's say Bryan Kohberger enters this house and he's holding this sharp-edged object and it's inside of the knife sheath. Now he doesn't take the weapon out of the knife sheath until he gets to the upper level. And then he takes the weapon out of the knife sheath and discards it on the bed, which he would have known he was going to need to discard this knife sheath at some point. He was going to need to drop this knife sheath at some point during these crimes, and he would know that because once he takes the knife sheath off of the knife, now his hands are full. So now he has the weapon in one hand, he's got the knife sheath in the other hand. So now he doesn't have a hand to fend off his victims or to manipulate his victims. So he knew that at some point, if he was walking into this house with that sharp-edged weapon inside the knife sheath, he knew that at some point he was going to have to discard that knife sheath. I mean, it just doesn't make sense that he would walk all the way upstairs with the weapon still in the sheath. I just don't, and then just leave the sheath at the crime scene, smack dab in the middle of the crime scene. Not just somewhere where they had to look for it. It was smack dab in the middle of the crime scene, just glowing like a beacon in the night. I just don't think that somebody who has that much knowledge about crimes and criminals would make such a ridiculous mistake. It just doesn't make sense. You know, he gets in this house and he commits these crimes and then he leaves. Not only does he leave, but he leaves a witness. Why? Why would he leave a witness? He's already taken the lives of 4 people. So when he walks past Dylan in her doorway, did he just decide that 4 was enough? You know, I've heard it reported that he was exhausted at this point, which I believe he probably was pretty tired if he committed these crimes by himself. But I don't believe that you'd be too tired to leave a witness. That just doesn't make sense to me. Then after he leaves the house, he gets in his car and peels out away from the crime scene, drawing more attention to his vehicle. It's just a series of mistakes that I wouldn't expect someone who is going to commit these types of crimes to make. These are very basic mistakes that I wouldn't expect somebody who is well educated in crime. His entire education is based around crime and criminals. But he made all of these mistakes. And I get it. I mean, maybe he planned all of this. I don't think he did plan all of this, because if he planned all of this, this was a horrible plan. But if he planned this and then maybe got into the house and was overwhelmed once he started committing these crimes and got sloppy, but this would have been a sloppy plan from the beginning. This would have been a sloppy plan from the second that he pushed the buy now button on Amazon to buy the murder weapon. It just doesn't seem that someone with the credentials of Bryan Kohberger would make so many silly mistakes. These are ridiculous mistakes that he would have made. It just doesn't make sense. You know, personally, I think, you know, if you've been watching any of my videos, then you've probably gathered that I don't believe that Bryan Kohberger committed these crimes. And I definitely don't believe that he committed these crimes by himself, if he did have any association with these crimes. But I'm not trying to defend Bryan Kohberger. I'm not trying to prove his innocence. I don't know Bryan Kohberger. I have no connection to Bryan Kohberger. And whether Bryan Kohberger committed these crimes or not doesn't really affect my life at all. So I'm not defending Bryan Kohberger. I'm just pointing out the obvious. It doesn't make sense. I don't believe that someone who's as well educated as Bryan Kohberger is about crime scenes and crime and criminals would make so many silly mistakes, so many basic mistakes. Mistakes that would easily lead authorities back to him personally. It just doesn't make sense to me. And as more information is leaking out about these crimes and about Bryan Kohberger, the less and less I believe that it's possible that he committed these crimes. I'm not saying it's impossible that he committed these crimes, because that's definitely a possibility. But the more information that comes out, the more confusing that it gets. And the less likely it looks to me that Bryan Kohberger is the sole suspect of these Idaho 4 crimes. I'm looking into it, so stay tuned for my next video, and please like and subscribe. You know, I really appreciate all of the comments, and I do get into the comment section, and I am active in the comment section. You know, I like to get in there and read your theories and read your ideas, because I've approached this with a very open mind, and there have been a few comments that have made me go back and do some more research, because there's a lot of good points in that comment section. So thank you guys for interacting with my page and sharing your ideas and your thoughts. I really do appreciate it. We'll see you next time.